You're listening to Infinite TBR, the podcast where we try not to buy more books. I'm Smack.
And I'm Gabi. Spoiler alert! We're going to avoid major spoilers, and when we can, warn when we're going to discuss a particular book in detail so you can avoid that part of the episode. You can also check the show notes for time-stamped flags identifying potential spoilers.
Future Gabi here, just filling in some authors that we forget to mention during this episode. We've got Why Does He Do That? Inside the Minds of Angry and Controlling Men by Lundy Bancroft. Trauma and Recovery, The Aftermath of Violence, From Domestic Abuse to Political Terror by Judith Lewis Herman. When Battered Women Kill by Angela Brown. 8 Keys to Safe Trauma Recovery by Babette Rothschild. And The Lady Rogue by Jen Bennett. I also slightly misremembered the author of Burning Girls and Other Stories. The author of that one is Veronica Schanoes. So without further ado, let's get into it. Welcome back to round two of Mysterious Galaxy Showdown.
I mean, it's our Showdown Throwdown.
It's our Showdown. It's ITBR Showdown Throwdown. It just happens to involve Mysterious Galaxy Summer Bingo. Just
one day we'll be affiliates. And every time we mention their name, they'll pay us.
Ooh. Mysterious Galaxy, Mysterious Galaxy, Mysterious Galaxy.
That's not how affiliations work, FYI.
It is now.
Yeah.
It is in our dream world where we're affiliated with Mysterious Galaxy.
Officially. So we have these little books left. On each book, Gabi wrote a name, or title, I guess, of a book that the other one of us read for Summer Bingo.
Yeah.
And I am... I don't know if you can hear that with the microphone, but I am... You know how people, like, reshuffle cards? Except there's no skill involved in this. I just really like the sound.
It's a good...
Or just, like...
It's a good ASMR.
Yeah, it is. Delightful stuff.
Okay, anyway. Okay. We have some amount of books left. Whenever I cut this in. Yeah. Anyway, A Sweet Sting of Salt by Rose Sutherland?
Rose Sutherland, yeah. The Last Graduate by Naomi Novik.
I forgot I had those in there! Those are also top of this year. I knew I was forgetting something.
Year, top
ever? Top ever. Okay. But this year just had a lot of really good ones.
That was the big sigh. Didn't matter what title you gave me. At least I didn't have to go against Basilisk Gaze in that one.
That would have been sad.
You still probably would have won. That reaction, that was...
So, The Last Graduate by Naomi Novik is the second one in the Scholomance series, and I'm obsessed, and I love them so much, and I'm really excited. I talked about the very beginning of the first one. It was very funny to go back and listen to me talk about my impression of the first 20 pages, having read the entire trilogy, and being like, oh, sweet summer child, you have no idea what's coming.
Oh boy! I can't wait to read these. I know your mom's reading them first, but I cannot wait.
Yeah, she's gonna have to give them back. She's gotta read them or give them back. Oh my god. I think all I've said on the podcast was the way their, dynamic is set up as first is just, so, just hysterical. The way he's like, you're evil, so I'm gonna follow you around, make sure you don't get up to evil stuff. And she's like, I'm going to pretend like we're dating so that I can get ahead. And so, and get, resources and stuff that I need to survive. And that, doesn't even begin to touch the surface of...
Excellent. I'm so excited to read them.
And each book, the way each one ends, and then, they're, something... It was so fun reading this with Laura next to me, because I would, say some offhand comment, and, watch her, very carefully school her face, and be like, interesting.
She'd read them.
Yep, because she'd read them, and there's some things that are, not telegraphed early on, but things that, you do not clock as being important. She planned. It's one of those she planned.
I love plans.
And they're, things that I said in passing, where I was, almost, questioning a world-building thing, that I thought was just fun, I'm interested, just in terms of, I wonder, how this works within this world that she built, not realizing that it was, in fact, a very important question that I asked. That is a trilogy I cannot wait to read again.
Really?
Cannot wait.
Oh my god.
Anyway, I'm fine.
Are you?
So, A Sweet Sing of Salt
was fine.
That's about a siren, right?
It was a selfie, not a siren.
Right.
And so it's 1815-ish in Nova Scotia, in a small town where the main character is lesbian and got caught with her best friend in bed, and her best friend's family is super homophobic, so they married her best friend off to a Quebec family where she didn't speak any French, just to get her away from the evil influences of the main character. And
big yikes.
And like they just completely ostracized her. The only reason anyone speaks to her is she is the only, like, there's a midwife who taught her everything she knows, but the midwife is getting quite old and has arthritis, and so like they need this girl. Can't drive her completely away. So she lives by herself. Her dad's dead. Her mother drowned herself, and no one knows if it was on accident or not, because it could have been postpartum depression. But it's also kind of like treacherous near her house if there's a big storm. And so there's a big storm near her house, and then she hears a woman outside yelling and unintelligible, and she goes out, and it's a pregnant woman who's very clearly about to give birth. And so she brings her in, delivers the baby, and they have this lovely couple of days where like she's recovering, and they get along really well, even though the woman doesn't speak any English at all. And then the main character finds the husband, returns the family together, and it's about women trusting their instincts around predatory men. And trusting your instincts beyond what your eyes are telling you. It doesn't matter how jovial the guy is, what a nice guy he is, how
they're charismatic as hell.
Yeah, and just, like, this is the... he wasn't even, like, super charismatic. He was sort of like the doting husband that was actually just controlled beyond belief. And so she tries to run away a couple of times, and then the two women fall in love, and in order to get the Selkie woman out of the house for a while, the midwife, main character, makes up this, like, thing about, oh, we have to keep an eye on the baby, but they need to be together, but, like, I need to be nearby so he can get proper care at the right time. Don't worry, they're in great hands. And so they get, like, a week, and then the Selkie woman goes home, and the husband starts to get suspicious, and it just escalates horribly. And for all that, the fact that she's not human, there was very little magic. So a lot of it was just reading about an abusive relationship.
Right, so it's just, yeah, okay. So it reads contemporary, or not contemporary, but reads
it reads
fiction.
Like historical fiction. And then at the end, there are seals. So your title is The Undermining of Frank and Twyla.
That one is by Megan Bannen. Yours is The High Mountain Court by A.K. Mulford.
Wasn't mine?
No, that was Sweet Sing of Salt was versus Last Graduate.
Oh, right.
We were just giving a summary for the listeners.
Tell me your title again.
The High Mountain Court by A.K. Mulford. Giants. What was mine again?
The Undermining of Frank and Twyla by Megan Bannen.
Which is the second in, like, the first one is that Undertaking of Heart and Mercy, which you haven't read yet.
I have read part of it. I don't know if I'll go back to it.
Right. That's fair. Undermining of Twyla and Frank is, like, it was comped to When Harry Met Sally.
Right.
I'm not sure I'd describe it as that.
Really?
It's not that dynamic.
I thought that was the first one.
No, the first one's You've Got Mail.
Oh, right.
The second one is, like, only When Harry Met Sally in the sense that they're, like, old friends. And that's kind of like... So it's like friends to lovers is the trope. But other than that, there's not. You can probably get away with just skipping to it if you want to just read it. So instead of, you know how like the first one was kind of zombies? This one is pink sparkly dragons.
I might skip to that one.
And like Duckers is still there, and he's still like one of my favorite like side characters.
Yeah, he's good.
But it was very fun. And so like it made me want to hug my mom.
Oh no.
It was very like, you know, the pressures and like how all the all the family and emotional burden ends up on whoever the mom.
The Matrix.
Yeah. And how she's kind of reconciling like her adult children and like her growing feelings for Frank, and also their pink sparkly dragons, and that's a whole situation they have to deal with, and it was fun. Okay. And then High Mountain Court was extremely mid, right?
There were some racist bits that
Oh,
I did not enjoy,
no.
and there was quite a lot of sexism, and so no, I did not enjoy it. Really, the only reason I kept going was because A, I owned the first one, and B, I owned the third
Right.
one, and I was gonna get through them. That's why the second one was such a
Right.
nice relief.
Wow, the bar was
Yeah,
low.
the bar was real low.
This is one we have in common. It'll be funny if you pick the same one.
Myrtle Volume 1.
Burning Girls and Other Stories by Veronica Shaw.
I will fight you. I will fight
The
you
way
to
you
the
said
death.
That is one I would probably, just because I've also read it, like, for me, Myrtle Volume 1 is the winner, but, like, I get it. I get it. Burning Girls was, like, such a smack
It's so good.
style of writing.
It's so smack that, like, I had to take breaks. Because it was just all...
I was so proud of myself. That was, like, one that I picked up for you just based on, like, I think there was, like, a blurb by
like
one of your other favorite authors. Kelly Link.
Kelly Link.
Or it was
gonna say
compared
Karen
to Kelly
Russell.
Link
Yeah.
or something. And then I was like, this sounds smacky.
And then it was my birthday Christmas.
Yeah. And then I read it.
And you were like, this is
And I was like,
very
wow, I
smacky.
really nailed this. this is it. It's one I would have, I don't think she is, because I think I looked it up, but it's one I would have pegged as a Clarion.
Yes.
Right.
I don't think she is.
I don't think she is, but
But,
it
like,
sure felt like it.
It
Yeah.
reads like Clarion.
Yep.
So you're not
and you've
gonna
all
fight
heard
me
about
on Murdle?
Myrtle Volume. By G.T. Karber, which we forgot to mention earlier and in the last episode too,
Oh,
I think.
no.
I think I just kept forgetting to mention it, but yeah.
Okay. I can't believe you let me win that one, but okay.
I know.
Are you
It's
doing this
hard
out of
to
pity? Okay.
It's hard to justify letting a book of logic puzzles beat Burning.
I'm glad we feel the same way.
Like, yes, I had a lot of feelings. I enjoyed Myrtle Volume 1 more, but like I think the difference between your enjoyment of Burning Girls and Myrtle is much wider than the gap between my enjoyment, if that makes sense.
Mhm.
I think that's the tipping point.
Okay. Well, I appreciate that. The Thursday Murder Club.
Ooh, interesting. That is by Richard Osman. It's a very big murder mystery series with, like, it's retired people solving mysteries.
You said it's very big, and I thought, a murder club is very big?
No, they're only 4
That
of them.
seems like asking for, like, a narc.
That's not OPSEC. Botanical Cures and Poisons.
Oh.
By Fez Inkwright?
Yes, that sounds right. Doesn't sound like a real
The
name,
Shadow
but that
Lives
is-
of Plants.
That is so fascinating.
Really?
Because, I mean...
Is that nonfic?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so it opens with a couple of chapters on, like, the history of mass poisonings and why that would happen and in which cultures it happened more than once. And then it got into stories of, like, witchy women and plants and, like, how they sort of stood in for all medical knowledge during the Middle Ages because priests and friars provided medical care, but for the most part it was palliative.
Okay.
And then how the witch hunts basically decimated common plant lore and replaced it with this dumbass thing where, like, the church was like, if you see a plant that looks like a heart, it will help your heart disease.
Well, oh,
If you
right.
see a plant, yeah. So, like,
Yikes.
and some of that's very fatal. And then, so it goes through all these, like, aspects of botanical curses and poisons, and, like, what they're used, the context, history, all that stuff. And then it goes A to Z. It just names stuff.
Okay.
And it names stuff that isn't necessarily a poison, like basil is on there, because it was used in curses. Which
Okay.
is pretty fucking cool.
That is very cool.
So I enjoyed it.
So you enjoyed it.
And it's got a beautiful, sparkly front cover, and I took it on
Yeah,
the
the
plane,
cover's
and I
cool.
was reading it, and I was watching the guy sitting next to me, like very... Like
Reading a book on
volleyball
poisons.
dude. Yeah, like a volleyball dude, and I'm just reading, like, women poisoning men. This plant killed Socrates. This is what it does.
Here's how you prepare it.
There's no way to to counter it.
Well,
And, like, I could sort of hide that I was looking at him because of my glasses frame, but, like, I saw you, dude. And we
He's
did not
listening to
speak-
this podcast now. She saw you.
I saw you.
I love that.
It was such a fun way to be miserable. Because I was on a plane.
Right, yeah. Yeah. Thursday Murder Club is about these friends who live in this retirement community who are just very interested in murder. And then, like, a murder, like cold cases. One of them, her best friend used to work for the police force, and the friend is now in, like, memory care.
Mm-hmm.
And so they, like, not filling her spot, but they're bringing someone new into their fold.
Okay.
Just to have, like, another person. And so that's where it starts, is them bringing in this, like, new person who's like, oh, what? A murder club?
Oh, boy.
I like to feel useful.
And-
I'll contribute to this.
Misunderstands the title of their club.
I don't think
that
so.
was me.
Oh.
If it was
right,
my
right.
book and somebody came in and join our murder club, gonna jump on things.
Got someone you need murdered?
I'm
We're here for
proactive.
you. So, and then a murder, like, happens at the community or, like, associated with the community. Like, a murder falls into their lap. And they're like, it's our chance to solve a real-life murder. And so they go about basically getting in the police's way, kind of. Just like, but, like, what are the police gonna do? They're, like, these old retired people. You can't really stop them. And one of them, like, I don't know if it was confirmed, but, like, her whole vibe is she's, like, a retired spy. So she has all these, like, skills and stuff, and
I love that
she's
so much.
just so determined and so fun. So it was very fun, like, murder mystery vibe. It got a little unhinged and busy at the end when it was, like, resolving everything. Like, the very final, like, whodunit back and forth was a little, like, okay. But other than that, it was a really fun murder mystery read.
So,
And I will read more of them, because it's, like, a whole series now.
fun murder mystery or fun botanical murder?
Right? I mean, I have a gripe, so I don't know if you have any gripes. If you have a gripe, I say tie. If you don't have a gripe, I say you win.
Let's tie. Because there weren't enough footnotes for me.
Interesting. like cite your sources type
Yeah.
thing? Oh, okay.
And, like, a lot of it was cited, but, like, some of the things were not cited.
It
And
ought
I
to
was
have
like,
been.
this is true.
What My Bones Know by Stephanie Fu? Is that correct?
Oh, that's that one.
Right? Right?
That one book. Yeah. The one I gave to my mother for her birthday, and I was like, you need to read this. Invisible Women.
You win this one.
What was that? Was that the one about, like, statistics?
Yes. That is... Invisible Women is by...
Caroline Criado Perez.
Okay.
Data Bias and a World Designed for Men.
Yes.
So this is the one where it's like, seatbelts aren't safe for women, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah,
Those
so
are
it's
fun.
a nonfiction read about how our entire world is designed around the patriarchy, basically. And the idea that a male body is, assigned male at birth body is the default body. And it was very interesting. There were a lot of dynamics to it that I never thought about. Things like the way our, like, highways are designed
Really?
is around this idea, is built for the person who is commuting to and from work, not for communities that rely on mutual support. So things like mixed-use zoning, that's one of the reasons why mixed-use zoning is not a thing in America. It's just because there's been this, like, drive to accommodate
commuters,
men, or traditionally male roles and activities and stuff. And like you said, seatbelts are designed for the average proportions of...
a larger torso.
Yep.
With no boobs.
And something, I think, like, desk chairs may have come into this, like, things about how, like, things that are, like, built to support your, like, certain bits in your back and neck a certain way, so we're not getting the support we need.
In more ways than one.
Yes. And it was super interesting, super worthwhile read for anyone. My only gripe about it is that there is a moment, I think, in the introduction, so at the very beginning, where she seemed to lean unnecessarily hard into a, like, default gender binary.
Okay.
Not a whole lot of room for the fact that she was doing work about gender bias and traditionally heteronormative families, didn't go that far into, like, how that looks with
Non-traditional.
Yeah,
families.
non-traditional family structures. And I would have, like, blown past it and been like, for the purposes of what she's doing, like, yeah, she, like, she's looking at, like, level 1.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought it was weird to not even, like, acknowledge it as, like, and there were some other intersectional things that she did acknowledge, like, how race comes into a lot of these things, too. But there was a moment in the introduction specifically where she, like, doubled down on it in a, like, subtle but weird way that felt very, like a cis default. And, like, trans is not part of this discussion at all.
That's unfortunate.
And I just thought that was weird. Like, it wasn't, like, overtly transphobic, but it didn't feel not transphobic.
Right.
So, didn't love that. But other than that one tiny moment in the introduction, and then, like, that oversight that was kind of, like, built into it through all was really interesting, and I think should be required reading for anyone, especially anyone doing, like, civil engineering, anything whose job is to design things for... And there were all these case studies about, like, how they designed, like, ready-made houses and didn't think to include a kitchen. Like, weird... It was, like, weird things like that, where things that, like, should be obvious and would have been obvious if they'd talked to one person whose job is homemaking and caretaking. There's, like, huge oversights. So it's just like, what are you doing?
Weird.
And people will sink all this money into these things to, like, support these developing communities or these impoverished communities that then, like, go nowhere because what was working for them before worked better, and because no one thought to talk about how that bears out in practical ways.
Oh, that's fun.
Yeah. So it was really rage-inducing, but very interesting.
What was the title you pulled? I can't even remember.
What My Bones Know.
What My Bones Know. Oh my god. Okay. I did talk about this 2
Very
episodes.
good.
It was fantastic.
I'm scared of it.
Yeah, that's fair. I sort of fell into a learning about trauma hole. It's not even a spiral. It's a hole without a bottom. Like, I just finished a book called Why Does He Do That? About gendered violence specifically between significant romantic partners, but also, like, what that does to the children in that situation. And it was rough, but it was bearable because the author, Dr. Lundy, or whatever his name is, he's speaking directly to the reader, and he's assuming the reader is a battered woman. An abused woman, at least. And so he says, you have to trust your gut on this, but my advice would be, if you can do this safely, you should XYZ. Mm-hmm. Or he'd give advice like, whether or not you hate his ex or not, talk to her, listen to her, and just keep what she said in mind, even if you don't believe her. And he said a couple of times, I hope that by listing out these things that abusers do before they turn violent, you can recognize these things in his behavior and get out before it's too late, basically. Or if you are not sure if your partner is an abuser, hopefully you will see him or not see him in these lists, and that can also help. And he's done like 20 years of counseling abusive men. Most of them show up under duress. Court orders, or like, my partner will leave me if she doesn't see some kind of progress type thing. And like, the vast majority of them fail out because the abuse doesn't stem from anger or habits or whatever. It stems from a belief that you are superior to whoever you're abusing. And to change that kind of foundation, basically, requires such dedication for so long from so many different quarters of your life that most people just don't manage it. But he says repeatedly, that's not the point of all this. The point, my client is not these guys. My client is their spouse or their significant other, their partner. And so he's like, I don't believe anything they tell me until I hear the women's version. And I've done this long enough that I can call out pretty much any kind of sleaziness, anything they're trying to like slide past as like an excuse. It was really interesting. And it was bearable because he was so clearly on the side of the abused partner. And he said, the book's from like 2002.
Oh, I didn't realize it was that old.
Yeah. Doesn't change, unfortunately. And for being from 2002, he was explicit probably half a dozen times through the book that, like, I'm using man and woman here because men are usually the abusers and women are usually the victims. But this also applies to all queer relationships. Abuse happens when it's women and women and men and men. Like, it just happens. These are just the pronouns I'm using. Right. which was kind of nice.
Yes.
And it was very illuminating. And so that's one of the books I got sucked into post What My Bones Know. There's another one I'm reading called Trauma and Recovery. There's another one on the way called When Battered Women Kill, which might apply to an upcoming story I'm writing. A little bit. Yeah, and like 8 steps to something emotional abuse. Like I fell down a hole. And now I have all these library books.
Hyperfixation. What a fun hyperfixation.
And it's like delayed gratification because like by the time they show up, I haven't moved on. But like I'm not in the throes of it. Yeah. So it's, I mean, at this point, it's just interesting stuff to learn. And good to know. But yeah, that all came from What My Bones Know, which is top 3 of the best books I read this year.
Another top
amazing.
3.
Another top 3.
This year.
Of this year.
Okay.
Yeah. But like, it's been a good year, I guess.
I like how we both had good years, but for some reason, most of your good ones fell outside of summer.
Because Summer Bingo was July, where I was just reading to read. I had a concussion, and I couldn't read. You didn't break me.
This was all part of my master plan to win Summer Bingo. Step 1, get smacked a concussion.
It succeeded. I probably mentioned this in our last episode. I read 16 books in July, but my brain was not up to the task for good books. So I read a lot of mediocre stuff, or stuff that had been sitting on my e-reader because they were free.
Burners.
Basically.
Yay.
Not that I didn't read good books.
Well, you definitely win that one, I think.
So good. Oh, so good.
Yay. The Rogue Crown, which I assume is another A.K. Mulford.
It is not.
Oh, which one's that one?
Oh, no, wait, you're right. It is the A.K.
Is that
I was
the
so
third
excited!
One?
Yeah, that was the third one.
Every time I see it, I think it's the... Yep. Is it just the Rogue? No, it's not just
Crowned
the
by
Rogue.
the Fae King by Mallory Duncan.
Oh, that's actually not what I was thinking of.
Oh.
I was thinking of one that neither of us has touched in quite a long time. The one that's in Romania. The Rogue. It's also Rogue something.
Yeah. The Lady Rogue?
Yes, the Lady Rogue.
Yeah.
Very different, anyway.
Very different.
I don't remember who that's by, but anyway. Not important.
Book,
yes.
Okay. The Night Ends with Fire.
So the Rogue Crown is by...
A.K. Mulford.
A.K. Mulford.
It's the third in that...
It is the third. Okay.
5 Crowns series, whatever it's called.
Of Okrith.
Of OK. Books.
Okay. What was mine?
The Night Ends with Fire.
Ooh.
Was that a good one?
That's the Mulan retelling. The one that's very pretty.
But
that was... we were talking about this earlier. She doesn't really have any allies. She can't trust anyone around her. And there were parts of it that were really interesting and cool. I thought some of the, like, transitions were, like, unstable or...
Like scene transitions?
Yeah. But so it was hard emotionally because she didn't have any sort of support. She had, like, has one positive relationship with her stepmother at the very beginning, but then she, like, goes off to join the army and run away from this, like, betrothal situation that she... No, I guess not betrothal, but, well, I guess the whole point is they're becoming betrothed to be married. But it's a pre-abusive situation. She's like, no, I've already done this with my dad. I'm not doing this anymore. I'm outie.
Fair.
Yeah. And as part of that, ends up with, like, this one remaining trinket from her dead mother that establishes a relationship between her and this dragon spirit. And, like, apocalyptic power, potentially. And it's like, he's one of 4 major spirits, and there's also his, I think, like, basically his opposite, spirit rival or whatever, is the Phoenix. And somewhere else in the world, someone has tapped in to that power. And is causing problems.
Oh, no.
But the dragon's not the most, like, trustworthy.
I said, oh, no, but that's not what I meant.
There's some oh, no components to it. But it's, like, hard to tell what the dragon's agenda is, and he keeps being like, you need to learn how to use my power. But there's this whole, like, anti-magic thing that she grew up in the middle of, so she's already, like... And it drove her mom insane. And she's like...
Oh, like literally?
Yeah, like literally.
Mm.
And that's how her mom died. And she was like, well, I don't want that to be me, so she keeps kind of pushing the dragon away, and the dragon's like not going out of his way to be more trustworthy or appealing, like not even like trying to play it. He's just like, well, you should listen to me, and when things go wrong, he's like, well, you should have listened to me. Anyway, it's not a great relationship, and then in the middle of this army, she doesn't really have any friends, except for this, like, sort of friendship, sort of romance thing she's developing with the, like, commander, but they have a thing that, like, early on, she takes the fall for someone else in her cohort for stealing something, because her co-soldier...
Clearly we know
they were mad at their, like, immediate commander. He stole something from him to piss him off, and he got pissed off, and they basically turned out the entire cohort to strip, and she was like, if they find me, because she's disguised as a man, so she's like, if they find me, they'll kill me.
Right.
So I'm going to fess up to it so that I don't get stripped.
Right.
But the punishment, which she knows, is getting flogged. And one of, like, the more convenient things that happens is they don't strip her to flog her. And there's, like, a throwaway line where she's like, wow, I'm sure glad they didn't strip me to flog me. And
usually,
like...
stripping someone to flog them is a sign of respect, or that, that you don't want them to die. Because then their fabric gets in all the cuts, and they get infected and they die.
Right.
So
she
was expendable.
Yeah. So if they had, like, set that up, that would have been, like, an interesting thing to play. But...
Yeah, I don't know why I know that. If I know that, that should have been in a book.
Right. But it was very clearly a convenient, we can't, but we also need this, like, commander that she has a pre-romance with to flog her. And so that happens because it's like standard punishment for thievery. He doesn't feel great about it, but, like, it is what it is. But, like, seems like not the best foundation for a romance going into this duology, I think it's going to be. So that's, like, one potential love interest.
Okay.
And then there's another potential love interest, who's this third prince who's, like, basically making it by pretending he's kind of a dummy and is not quite a dummy.
Those guys.
I do, except this love interest is rival kingdom, captures them, and, like, fully has his people torture her.
Oh, great.
And then realizes that she has this magic connection, and then, like, imprisons her in a, like, fancy room. And then it's like, oh, this is okay now because it's a fancy... And so she's like, I'm still in prison. I still, like, I have no freedom here. And he... trying to build a romance in that situation is really meh to me.
Yeah.
And it's not that it was not supposed to be uncomfortable, but I just, like, both of those are, like, weird foundations for any sort of romance.
Yes.
And he's kind of awful and not trustworthy, and also giving no one any reason to trust him, but is still fully expecting her to fall in line with his plans. And I'm like, you can't have it both ways. If you're that kind of character. Either you accept the risk that, like, they're not going to step in line and, like, plan accordingly. Or have that, like, open up and start having love. So anyway, so that was very frustrating because she didn't have any allies. And then, like, I wasn't sure what I as a reader was expected to want or anticipate from, like, especially these two relationships. And then, like, it kind of ended in, like, it was meant to, like, be a cliffhanger going into the second one, but it was kind of just, like, a bummer.
Just a big old bummer.
Yeah. So I think I ended up giving it 4 stars, because it had a lot of interesting elements, and Mulan is one of my favorite storylines, but in terms of execution, I mean, maybe there'll be more positive things in the second. Oh, the author's KX Song.
Okay.
Not a, like, it's not her debut.
Right.
But it's her adult debut. I think she has, like, one other book and it's YA. Wow. But it was a beautiful book, aesthetically. Like, physically. Okay. And a lot of interesting elements. It's just, like, it was hard to let myself be invested because I wasn't really, like, enjoying myself, if that makes sense.
That's too bad.
I just wanted to like more. Like, she was fine, the main character, but, like, everyone else just... sucked.
That's too bad.
So yeah, that was that one.
Oh, what was my title?
The Rogue Crown, which is the third it came over. Man. Did we get racist again?
We did not get racist. Okay. And this one was queer.
Okay.
It was one of the, like, BFFs from the first princess has to go home and be the prodigal daughter who ran away for reasons and had this thing going on with the princess of that country before she ran away. And so there was a whole second chance romance thing, and they had to learn to trust each other, and it was nice.
Okay.
It was just very mediocre.
Okay.
Also, I mean, this is world building for the whole story, but like it really, really, really started to bother me in the third book, is that they are on a continent. There's a map.
Mm-hmm.
There's a map, and there's ocean all around the continent. They might as well be Australia.
Mm-hmm.
And there's one kingdom in the center.
The High Mountain Court, yes.
The High Mountain Court. And then all the other 4 range around the High Mountain Court. But it is a continent. So, like, in the third book, they go to, like, the Serengeti part of the continent. But it took, like, 2 weeks to go from the High Icy Court around the High Mountain Court and all the way into, like, Africa-ish.
Okay.
And then, I mean, it might have taken less than 2 weeks. 2 weeks was like, oh, we have to actually take our time.
Right.
It like, the travel times made no sense. And it started to really drive me insane after a while.
I'm so sorry.
It's okay. The first 2 I could sort of ignore because, like, it's cold in the High Mountain Court and it's cold in the Icy Court.
Right.
So, like...
So at least same altitude?
And not the same altitude, but
oh.
one's, like, way north. And so, like, I will allow some fudging in that instance. Okay. But to go from...
Completely different biome.
The Arctic to a desert.
Right. The Sahara.
The Sahara, yeah. With, like, what... That drove me insane. The rest of the story was fine. Very mediocre, but otherwise unoffensive.
Okay.
Which was a step up from the first one. So, should we call it a tie? Do you care about the...
I don't care.
Let's call it a tie.
I'm still trying to decide whether to even read the sequel if it comes out. I might not.
Really?
Yeah. It's like, I kind of want to know what happens, but I don't know that I want to put myself through a whole other book of it. It's kind of where I'm at.
Oh, Lord.
But also, maybe the first one ended on such a sucky note that it can only go uphill from here. Downhill, uphill. Whichever one's good. The Imposition of Unnecessary Obstacles by Michael Walter. This is yours. Oh.
Burning Girls.
Oh, you're gonna have... Oh, I guess we both have read both of these. I mean, I enjoyed these more.
Was that the second one? Imposition of... Yeah, okay.
I would choose this one.
Are
we gonna tie by choosing each other's? Is that what's gonna happen? You're gonna be like, I prefer Burning Girls. I prefer yours. You prefer mine.
It's a collection, so not every story is amazing. But some of them are really fun. Like I don't want to blaspheme, but like Ursula Le Guin good.
Wow.
But that one was also really good too. The Malk older one. I don't know. Okay. I can't decide.
We're not allowed to be distressed over Throwdown Showdown.
Oh, I like that rule.
Yeah. If it's distress, it's a tie. I forgot you weren't going to be the one who's going to be reading this. I want you to appreciate this.
Holy shit. I can't even read it with my glasses. American Resistance, the story inside of how the Deep State saved the Union.
That's Mac's read, to be clear.
That was my read. It was
just very hard to write inside the tiny book, and I wanted some appreciation.
Who was that by? Stephen something?
I guess we should say, just in case these get split into different episodes, Burning Girls and Other Stories is by Veronica Schoss.
I believe so. What was that one?
American Resistance.
American Resistance, that's what it was. It's by David Rothkopf.
Wow. Like Kaupf?
Rothkopf.
Oh, it's all one word.
Yeah. David.
Wow.
Hi, David.
Hi, David. You have quite the last name, David.
And A Deadly Education.
I win! I was like, I know I have 2 more of those floating in there somewhere.
They're in there somewhere.
But tell me about American Resistance.
That one I have mixed feelings about. I actually think about it a lot because I have such mixed feelings about it.
Interesting.
It was very interesting in terms of, like, his goal with this book was to interview a bunch of civil servants, like career civil servants, the kind of people who Trump would replace if Project 2025 is put into effect.
The type of person I'm trying to be.
Yeah, exactly. And basically he went and interviewed everyone who considered themselves to be one of the adults in the room while he was president. So, like, he's very generous with a lot of these people just because they weren't authoritarian or they didn't just lie down or whatever. But a lot of the times, nobody, like, confronted Trump. They went around behind his back.
Right. Well, it's not like there's a framework in place in this country to confront your president and be like, hey, like, if you're embroiled in that infrastructure, the idea is, like, he's the boss.
Yep.
You do what your boss says.
A lot.
Yeah.
So, like, for example, the Muslim ban was struck down twice and then wasn't. So, in order to make that happen, one of these, I mean, Olivia Troy, she gave a speech at the DNC for Kamala Harris, but, like, she was part of this, and that was basically it. They were like, okay, we have to do this thing. How are we going to make it work without being horrifically racist? So the quote-unquote Muslim ban became a ban on countries who do not issue passports to their citizens. So that only people who can be traced can come into the U.S. legally. Which is not a terrible thing, especially from a national security perspective, but, like, it was also, it was the least amount of harm that they could manage. And so the book is full of that. And, like, that's the one where I was kind of like, okay, that makes sense. But, like, he interviewed Kristen Nielsen, who was the child separator at the border. And she had been resisting Trump's demands that she do this immediately for, like, 8 months before she gave in. But she still gave in, and she still didn't resign, and she still isn't trying to help mitigate, like, kids are still separated. Their lives are going to be forever impacted, even if they ever find their parents again. Some of them have been adopted.
Like, the damage has been done.
Yeah, and, like, you don't see her around trying to do anything. So she got more grace than she deserved, in my opinion. And it was hard reading, but it was also important in that civil servants are not the enemy, and as partisan as everything is, just because they're working under Trump, we need to remember that they're not Trumpers.
Right.
They're civil servants. So it was an important read. It was depressing, but it was also very quick, and it was generally easy to see when he was just covering for people, or when someone was covering for someone else. Like, he interviewed Fauci, and do you remember, I'm sure the whole world remembers this, but when Trump was giving one of his daily press conferences and was talking to Deborah Birx about how, like, if you put bleach or UV right in your light, in your body, it'll just take care of the virus. We should look into that. Are we looking into that? And Deborah Birx is sitting off the side of the stage, completely immobile, hands in her lap, face down toward the ground, and is clearly completely dissociated from it, like, as far out of her body as she could make it. And Fauci wasn't there that day because he pissed Trump off, but he was watching the news as it happened, and he goes, "Say something!" And so he tells the author that, and immediately walks it back, like, oh, she was under a lot of pressure, like, and she was, but she also didn't say anything.
Right.
And it's not like she didn't do more good by not saying anything.
Right.
Than if she had actually spoken up.
Yeah. That seems... It's such a complicated situation because you never really know how, like, you as a person will react in a moment to something like that. Yeah,
with some...
Especially...
And it's a lot of pressure. But,
especially,
like,
if you're used to not having to challenge. Like, if you're used to people in positions of power saying at least, like, semi-reasonable things that you don't have to, like, fact-check in the moment and be like...
And, like, it would have... I'm sure it was awful, but she also shredded her reputation.
Right.
By not disagreeing.
Right.
Like, Fauci has a reputation with the non-crazy people because he spoke up.
Right.
And she wasn't willing to do that. She thought it wasn't worth it, which is... It makes me mad. But she probably was in a worse position just because she was a woman.
Yeah. That's the thing is, like, I mean, it's hard to feel, like, good or bad. Like, it's very, like, it's just very complicated.
And like, the Kristen Nielsen one, where, like...
She should have done different, she should have done better, but, like, I get it.
Yeah.
I'm not sure I would do any better, but I'd like to think I would.
I sure like to think I would. I probably would have been fired too early.
That's the thing, is, like, yeah.
Like, I used to think I was very tactful. And then I went off to college and moved out, and it turns out the only person I'm tactful in comparison to is my mother.
Oh, no. I think one of
Which was quite a surprise.
I think one of my instinctive, what are they called? You know, like fear, flight, fawn, fight. I think fawn is one of my big ones.
Fawn?
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
Like, you just default into people-pleasing when you go into panic mode, and just, like, whatever
I didn't
will
know that was
keep...
on the list.
I didn't know until one of my D20 shows was this fun, like, almost like Inside Out, like, detective noir combination show. And all 4 of them were, like, characters in this brain that in the campaign they did. But anyway, and then I was like, and then it was being very confronted with, yeah, that's probably me. But yeah, I guess it is like a panic.
I knew it was like a survival
response.
technique.
Yeah.
I didn't realize it was a panic response.
Well, I think that's like kind of all 6 of one.
Yeah.
Of the other. Okay, I don't remember where. Anyway, American Resistance. That's that.
Depressing but good read.
I think I let you win that. Because mine was something else. What was mine?
I have no memory. Oh no, wait, wasn't yours like a Deadly Education?
Oh yeah, so I did win that, and you lost. Bummer for you. Okay, that's all right. I was like, I feel like we didn't even talk about, and that's why.
Don't think.
By Naomi Novik, in case we didn't say that. I remember. The Enchanted Hacienda by something Cervantes. That's the...
J.C. Cervantes.
I think I was right. That's the one that's like, that movie.
Flowers. Magical realism.
That movie. That Disney movie. Oh my god.
No, I know what you're talking about. The Golden Enclave.
I win! Encanto.
Encanto. That's right.
The movie.
Yes.
Where did you land on that?
It was decent.
Okay.
It was fine.
Okay.
I wished it had been a little less predictable.
Oh my god, the Golden Enclave. I can't even talk about it without spoiling
Don't
the
spoil
entire first 2. I'm not going to.
Nothing.
I'm absolutely not going to. But oh my god, thinking about.
I can't wait to read these books.
Oh my god. I want to reread them so badly. Okay.
The Mimicking of Known Successes? Was that?
Yeah.
We only have 3 left, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
By Malka Older, and then Capture the Sun by Jesse Mihalik. Wasn't that your least favorite of the 3?
But I still really enjoyed it. No, not Capture the Sun. Was that the second one?
No, that's the third one.
Third one I enjoyed. Second, yeah.
Oh, okay.
The Mimicking of Known Successes, though, is just... I like that one better. It's so good.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed Capture the Sun, but like...
If it were the first one, I'd maybe argue for a tie. Maybe. They're hard to compare because they are very different vibes.
They're very different vibes. Well, I have reread the Malka Older one, and I will probably reread Hunt the Stars, Capture the Sun, whatever.
Yeah,
the third one.
Sure. Okay.
But, I don't know. I think Malka Older wins. I just love those books so much.
They're so good. And I'll probably reread them every time a new one comes out. Evocation by S.T. Gibson.
S.T. Gibson. The Soulbird. You win.
By Tanya Huff.
Did we talk about...
We did talk about that one. Fantasy, werewolves.
So good.
So good. Anti-imperialism. Evocation. I don't think we have.
He crossed out a very long title and wrote a single word title.
Yep. Tactically, I was like, oh, I wrote the wrong thing. I will pick the shortest title. So.
Is that how that happened?
Yes, that is how that... It was the first one I did. It was literally the first one I sat down and wrote at the title. And I was like, oh, I forgot I subbed that one. Anyway, but before you do that, Evocation.
I think I talked about it a little.
Did you?
I don't know. So,
I know you talked about it to me. I don't know that you talked about it on the podcast.
Evocation is the first in I think it's going to be a trilogy by S.T. Gibson, who also wrote Dowry of Blood.
Which was good!
Which was amazing! And then she also had a novella out called Odd Spirits about this married couple who, one is like a very ordered sorcerer, like he's got books to read and everything's very 90-degree angles and perfect summoning circles, and his wife does like astrology and tarot reading and crystals and like very... I don't think she intended it to be fully gendered like that, but like...
It sure comes off
It
that
sure came
way.
off that way. And then there was this ex of the husband who walks in named David. His name is David.
I thought that was Evocation.
David is the main character of Evocation. So she wrote a novella that has turned into a prequel novella.
Gotcha.
Don't read the novella.
Right. I remember you mentioned that.
Don't read the novella.
I'm not even going to read Evocation unless you read all 3 and then say I would like it. Because after whatever you said about Evocation, I was like, that doesn't sound like Gabi would enjoy that.
I really liked the middle of the story. And Evocation is David has a curse on him that is going to kill him on his 30th birthday. Mm-hmm. And he needs help from that married couple, from both of their specialties. And they are still not speaking to him after the novella. And he's very like, it's been 6 months. Can't you get over it? They're all horrible people.
Yep. And that's where we're like, Gabi wouldn't like.
Yeah. But like, when you start with such a horrible person, they have a lot of room to grow. And there was a lot of
front
growth.
load the awfulness.
Yeah. That is more or less what happened. And I really liked watching them turn not normal, but less awful.
Okay.
And it's absolutely turning into this throuple thing. It's that's easily my favorite part, watching these people who don't trust each other, and some of them don't really like each other at the beginning. Most of them don't really like each other at the beginning.
Did I tell you that the main relationship in The Sky on Fire is polyam?
Yes.
And it's like her ex and her new...
Yes! Yes!
And they're so fucking cute. Anyway.
There's also going to be this delightful polycule in the Mallory Dunlin world. It hasn't happened yet, but it's there.
Let's go! I forgot what I was saying.
They're horrible people. They learn to be less horrible. Mostly they're learning to be less horrible to each other for a specific selfish reason, and that they need the other person's help.
Don't love that.
But it's sort of like fake it till you make it on accident.
Like The Good Place.
Yeah. Yes. It's like The Good Place, except very dark.
Less fun.
Lots of blood. And the beginning was a little rough, and the ending wasn't as satisfying as I wanted it to be. David tipped a little too far into, like, giving up all of his evil ways. I'll do anything. Without, like, that sharpness that makes him himself. Mm-hmm. So, it'll be interesting to see in the second one where these things progress. But the 3 of them,
at least they're
especially David and the wife, their relationship as it developed was fascinating. Because David is very gay, and the wife has no, like, sexual interest in him. But, like, they find this cerebral harmony that was very cool to watch.
Okay. Interesting.
And she had to put up with him because she needed help controlling some of her powers, and he knew how to do it. So there was a lot of, like, individually, 2 characters were forced together for one reason, and then forced with other characters for another reason. But, like, there was this overarching reason where they were all forced together. A lot of forced proximity going on.
Right. Okay.
So it was good. And it was so pretty. I haven't decided yet if I'm going to buy the second one. In terms of story, I'd be more likely to library it.
I just library it and see.
But they're so pretty. They're so pretty.
Will you keep Evocation?
Yes.
Or is that dependent on how the next 2 go?
No, I'm going to keep it.
Oh, interesting.
It's too pretty. Also, there are, like, AO3 tags on the back. You remember I told you that?
Yeah.
That was pretty cool.
I
like that.
Everyone would.
And there weren't, like, they weren't spoilers. They were just helpful.
They
should, only, like, 3. It's not like an actual AO3.
Right. They should have non-spoiler ones, and then, like, inside flap somewhere, or, like, have a little cute little, I don't know.
For people like Laura and me.
Yeah.
I'm half and half. Sometimes I need to know.
Although usually, I guess AO3 does a good job of generally not having spoilers in the tags.
So...
Anyway.
What was this? This was you win.
Do I? Yes. I don't remember why, but...
I can't remember.
I think I already put yours away, so I...
Okay.
Well, this last pretty decisive.
This last one is Winter.
Oh, that's right. And this is Born a Crime by Trevor Noah. Winter is by Marissa Mayer. It is the 4th in the... I forget what the whole quartet is called, but it's the Cinder,
Scarlet, something.
Scarlet, Cress, Winter.
The Lunar Chronicles.
The Lunar Chronicles. There we go. And Born a Crime is Trevor Noah's, like, autobiography, right? Kind of.
Memoir autobiography. It was my audiobook entry, because I got his audiobook for cheap many years ago when audiobooks were still all CDs. And I was listening to it on a drive, and I actually found it sort of boring because, like, I got it because he narrated it. Mm-hmm. And I figured at least that way I know everything's going to be pronounced correctly.
Right, yeah.
But, like, it's it's very different listening to him talk for his show or for like a comedy thing or other than listening to him read his words.
Okay.
And it was not in a good
bummer.
So I got bored, unfortunately.
Okay.
But you seemed to like Winter.
Winter was probably my least favorite of the 4.
Son of a bitch.
But rounded out the quartet just fine.
Okay.
It was long.
Yeah, I remember. It was like a...
And that was okay.
That wasn't
I
even-
wish I had loved it more given how long it was. Like, it had to do what, like, all those pages were for. Like, there were a lot of... at that point, you're juggling 4 pairs of characters.
Which is a lot. 8
in addition to
characters,
the
that's-
other side characters, yeah.
So much.
But at least, like, 8 different point of view characters. Probably 7, because I don't think
my
Winter's ever a
God.
point of view character. But...
Just turn it into a couple more books.
Yeah, and...
Because that thing, like, I've had door stoppers. I've had books you can put in front of a door to keep it open. I've had books I used as hammers in college. Like, that surpassed all of them.
It heavy.
Yeah. That's like... It's like the size of my first laptop.
It was funny. I think we talked about this already, but Cress, which is the 3rd one, which might have been my favorite, is wider physically than the 4th book. But it's like 300 pages shorter. Because Winter's like 800 something pages. But Winter's just heavy because they changed the paper width and density. So it's heavy.
It's a monster.
It's so funny to see them next to each other and be like, haha, that one looks shorter, and it's really not. But yeah, so like each one's obviously about like a different fairy tale, different pair, or different romance. Winter's suffered from the fact that Winter as a character has a screw loose. So she's not completely coherent. She's not...
That's a rough way to end a series.
Yes. Which also makes her not a particularly, like, reliable protagonist. Because, like, are the things that she's saying, are they smart? Are they worth pursuing? Or is she just, like...
Off for rock?
Yeah. And there is, like, a moment where I think Scarlet and her are trying to navigate these, like, underground tunnels or whatever, and Winter just, like, starts going off in a direction. And Scarlet's like, do you actually know what you're doing? Or... I guess we might as well just do this. I guess we'll just trust you. And I'm like, this isn't a matter of trust. This is, can you rely on this person to, in a very fraught situation, make good choices and / safe choices?
No, you can't.
So it was like, so that was an interesting choice. And the reason that she's off her rocker is because she's voluntarily kept herself from using her lunar powers. That's just, like, physiologically, like, their brains aren't meant to hold up to that.
Jesus.
But, like, she could stop that at any time. And I get that, like, her whole thing is, like, I don't want to exert control over another person. And, like, that's all well and dandy and, like, hard moral stance to take. But, like, if other people are depending on you to survive and you're making choices that actively endanger their lives, when there are, like, things, there are ways you can use your power that, like, don't take away consent, maybe pursue some of those options. And anyway, so that was a whole thing.
It's YA, right?
Yeah. And then her love interest is this, like, aggressively morally gray dude who only cares about her. It's the only thing motivating him. So he's not a particularly good person.
Right.
So it's like, she's kind of hard to be invested in because she's unreliable. He's impossible to be invested in because, like, who cares about you when all you, like, you don't care about other people, you just care about one other person. And so that's them.
Yeah.
But I love everybody else! So, when it wasn't those two on the page, I was having a continuation of a grand old time.
Yeah.
And then I'd be like, well, okay.
Okay.
So that was Winter.
Okay. You did seem really relieved to have finished.
Yes. Yeah. And that was, it's a shame that that was the last one.
Yeah.
If that had been, like, the second or the third one, although maybe that would have been worse, because I guess, like, they keep the character POVs as they go on, so then I would have had to put up with both of them for longer.
The face you're making. Alright, let's count them out.
Anyway, who are we saying won that one?
Oh, you did.
Oh, okay.
You won 14 times?
And lost 6 times. You won 6 times. And we tied 4 times, which is, I think, the most ties we've ever had. Oh, we didn't. We were supposed to randomize
Oh, the tie.
the tiebreakers.
But
Okay.
I still won't.
Pick odds or even.
Even.
Still.
Okay.
You said evens?
Evens. There's no possible way for me to win, though.
Okay, you won one.
Even if I win every single tie,
You won one. I know.
you will
but
still be ahead by 4.
You'll be closer.
15 to 9?
Yes. Happy Throwdown, Showdown, Throwdown.
I'm planning next year, all right? I'm going to be the most... This year, I just wanted to get it done.
Scared.
You should be.
We need to touch...
You should be.
We should touch base at the beginning of May and, like, pre-aim. Like, I don't know, like, plot. Parallel plot.
Parallel plot.
Yay!
I'm going to win next year. Just saying.
No, you're not.
Yes, I am.
No, you're not.
Yes, I am.
No, you're not. So, I will say there are competing interests because... On the one hand, there's this is the spot.
Oh, I don't care about winning the raffle.
Right, there's winning the raffle.
I'm
and
just
then
gonna beat you.
And that is why Smack's gonna win next year because suddenly her priorities are
My
beat
priorities this year
Gabi.
was to just fill out the form and get it in.
Because you had a concussion.
Yeah, and I had to get a ride from someone every time I went down there, so I just wanted it done.
Happy Showdown Throwdown.
Yay! You win.
Wait.
Congratulations. Next year, though.
Next year,
Next
coming
year,
for me.
I'm gonna read like Octavia Butler and Mallory Dunlin and Tamora Pierce
Whoa.
and
See, that's gonna be such a fun summer for you. See how fun it is?
I will destroy you!
I'm out here being excited you're gonna read such fun books for you, and you just have this, like, very intense, angry...
gonna destroy you.
I don't know what I'm gonna
And
do
the
next year.
good thing is, I have so many books, I don't even have to ration them. Like, I'll just keep reading whatever I want. And then come summer next year...
Are you gonna reread ones that you thought were the best? That's a move.
Maybe.
That's one way to stack.
We'll see. Yeah, I don't know what I'm gonna do. Next year, though. Gonna have goals. Something to work toward.
The other tactic is read ones that you know I love, because you know I won't fight them. Like, save Scholomance for next summer.
No, I'm not waiting.
And that's 3.
I might reread that.
3 ready to go. 3 automatic wins.
I'll go through your Goodreads profiles and look for books you gave 5 stars to.
See, that's the mean way to go. Less fun for you.
Well,
for 3 months, possibly. For when our tastes don't quite align.
You have a pretty good taste, so
just because we both have good taste. That doesn't mean what I love you will enjoy. And
so either I need to find books that you love that you would not vote against, or books I go rabid over.
Yeah.
That actually sounds like a pretty good summer.
Right? It's a fun way to do it. And then I have to decide what I want my approach to
can be fun.
Vengeance can be fun with your friends. Yay. So here's hoping.
Here's hoping.
You're just better at picking reads than
Here's hoping you can find an effective tiebreaker when necessary.
That's better than playing. Because you did win tiebreakers this year, 3-1.
Thanks to Google.
Thanks to Google. Shout out to Google. Give us money. This episode brought to you by Alphabet Go. Thanks for listening. This has been another episode of Infinite TBR.
You can find us online at infinitebr.com. You can email us at itbrshelf@gmail.com. And we're also on Instagram at
Infinite TBR Podcast.
And individually on Instagram
at Gabalodon, which is like Megalodon, but with Gab in the front of it.
And at what_Smack said, because Instagram locked me out of at what Smack said. So
here we are.
Here we are. See you next time.